Good morning, everyone. Suzanne Taylor King here for another Friday live edition of Unlock Your Way with STK. And today, do I have a treat for you? We're here with Captain Jack A.M. Austin of the Authentic LinkedIn Navigators. Welcome, Jack.
It's great to be here. I've been looking forward to this.
I'm
Highlight
so
of the week.
excited.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while. It's been a while in the making, but we're here now, so it's good.
Yeah. And I just want to say it's really, really rare. And I gave you this compliment when I explored your school community and all that you do, helping people navigate LinkedIn and actually making more sales. And, it's so authentic. And the way you connect with people is so real and genuine. And then I explored the value that you provide in your school community, which of course I'm going to have a link for below this video. But I want to dive into why you created this, and also the value in your Basecamp course is just off the charts. So what got you started with LinkedIn in the first place?
Yeah, so if we go back sort of 2.5 years ago, I was at the third year of running a content marketing agency. I had a classic SEO content agency, and we were responsible for writing content mostly for restricted niche industries, which sounds really like X-Files, like, oh, what's a restricted niche industry? It's basically anything that can't run ads, right? So we're talking like cannabis seeds, mushrooms, like all of these kind of things. And I was in that mostly because the old company that I worked for did a similar thing. When I stopped working for them, I started my own agency. Anyway, long story short, AI came out, and a lot of my clients also got hit by an algorithm update that was going on with Google. So basically, orders for content went from around $25,000 a month to about $3,000 a month in the space of 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So that left me with a bit of a problem. I had like a team of 40 content writers, editors, project managers, you name it. Luckily, a lot of them were based on contracts, but not luckily for anybody needing to make a living. And I was sat thinking, okay, what do I do now? How do I get more people through? And I'd always really relied on referrals and word of mouth. I'd never tried to build my own pipeline. I'd never done any outreach because it always made me feel a little bit sick. The thought of like sending messages to people I don't know and all of this kind of stuff. So I didn't really have a process for fixing it, basically. And unfortunately, that business didn't survive. I learned a lot from it. And what I mainly learned was complacency got me to a place where I thought that, all of this word of mouth was always going to keep going. And I didn't need a pipeline. I didn't need any way of bringing other clients through because I'd always get recommended somewhere else. Right.
Yeah.
So after that, I went on a journey of, okay, how do I start a new business? And I started out being an AI consultant for a while. I went through a couple of programs for that. And I jumped around niche to niche, platform to platform, trying a million different things to try and find an easy way to get clients the way I used to get them. And I didn't find one. There wasn't an easy way to do it. So that got me realizing that 3 years before, someone was telling me about LinkedIn outreach when I had my content agency, and I tried it for a little bit. And like I said, it felt icky and I didn't enjoy it. And it was like I was spamming people. So I used the skills I'd got from AI and I started reaching out to people and opening genuine conversations and being curious and networking. I don't like to call it cold outreach. And I started being quite successful with it. So that in with a sales process that I developed, I learned it from somewhere, meant that I could start closing high ticket clients that I'd never met before through LinkedIn. And I really enjoyed it. Like I kind of just got a buzz off the platform. And I about 12 months ago, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to fully go out now. And instead of being an AI consultant, I'm going to use the AI that I've learned to become a LinkedIn coach and teach other coaches how to get clients through LinkedIn without feeling like they're spamming and doing icky stuff they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I felt at the time, there was a real place for it, because coaches I get on with, professional coaches mostly, so mindset, performance, like exec, leadership, speakers, these kinds of people. A lot of them come from the same world that I came from in corporate, and they decided to do their own thing. They went and did training or whatever, and they love what they do. They're great at it. But when it comes to getting clients in a regular way, digitally, they really, really struggle. So much to the point that some people consider going back to jobs or having part-time or whatever else. So that to me was like drawing me towards helping that particular niche. And I knew I had a system that worked, because it's the same system that I use to get clients.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to unpack there. Number one, I love that so much of the learning came from the mistakes. I talk about the messy middle and the failures all the time with entrepreneurship. And I think so much of that is about being willing to fail and start over or pivot or whatever that looks like for you. So I want to celebrate that part of your journey. I know it sucks when it's happening, but afterwards it's like this clarity comes, oh, I won't do that again. You learn from those mistakes, which is so, so good and juicy. But also doing a system that worked for you. How did you kind of figure out this AI application? What did that look like for you to figure that out?
Sure, yeah, it's a great question. And if I go back to those beginning stages, it's because of what was already out there.
Mm,
So if you look at traditionally outreach methods and what people do to speak to prospects, it's a series of templates that they send. And you'll
mhm.
see it all the time in your inbox, right? You get a message,
They're
you know
exactly the
exactly,
same. Yes.
they're the same. There might be a pitch slap or whatever, or they'll say,
Yeah.
if you say, well, I don't think I'm your target market. Someone today was like, oh, well, I'm not even trying to sell you yet. I'm just connecting at this stage. It's like, yeah, I've seen these all of the time. So there was
Yeah.
a load of those, and I decided that I was going to do it a little bit differently. So I was manually writing messages about, like, what's the part of your job that lights you up?
Mm,
What's one thing that people always get wrong about what you do? Like these kinds of questions. And I was doing a lot of it manually, and it was taking me
mhm.
a long time to do.
Yeah.
And so from just trialing that and seeing what was working, I started to discover that there was some patterns, some message types that work, some things that people like to talk about.
Mhm.
Newsflash, everybody's favorite subject is themselves, right?
Mhm.
So get
Mhm.
them talking about themselves, and they're likely to reply. And then, yeah, because I'd learned all this stuff, like I was on the world's first AI consulting program, and I consider myself in the top like 5% of prompt engineers in the world, really. And that's not, I'm blowing my own trumpet big time there, but I am very good at that stuff. So I moved those two things together, and
Mhm.
I built comprehensive systems based on my experimentation. But the reason that I call them Sherpas is because they're guides, right? It's not
Yeah.
automation. Like, I don't believe in automation in conversation, because it takes away all of that human element, which
Mhm.
for coaches and for people like us is really, really important. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the journey. It was like testing things manually, and then figuring out how to use AI to do that process a little bit easier, really.
Yeah. And I'm still going through your process, but it's been absolutely incredible so far. And I will say that my own process of staying more in touch with people has just improved so much over the last, I'd say, year because of my willingness to see how AI could help me do certain things, but do those certain things like I would do it, or actually just be an arm of my business, not an automation. So I love that you feel the same way. And that totally comes across in not only your content, You do a great job with your storytelling part and side of your content, but it comes across in your business messaging as well. So, somebody who's looking to automate their LinkedIn and be hands off and just wait for sales to roll in really isn't your target market. And I'm curious about your thoughts on the difference, because when you message people cold, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you're cold emailing or cold DMing, it takes thousands upon thousands of messages to get one paying client.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
But in
talking
the
about a one
process,
percent.
you piss a lot of people off too. So it's
You
like, hmm,
You do, yeah. So they're both
yeah,
really, really good points because you're basically burning the list as
yes,
you add people,
yeah,
and it's a waste. It's a total waste of time. You're lucky if you get a 1% response rate
mhm,
from doing mass cold outreach, and then from that 1%, people have already got their guard up. They know there's a sale coming, and then you're going to have a very difficult time unless you're selling something that's like super low ticket or an absolute no brainer to say yes to.
mhm,
It's very unlikely that it's going to go anywhere. And then
yeah,
all the people you've added on LinkedIn, you can't message them ever again because you've already put them into that zone.
right,
Whereas, so I don't personally believe automation works in that sense. Like, I think anyone telling you that it does, you should run 100 miles an
agreed,
hour in the other
yeah,
direction, to be
yeah,
frank. But it's for what I do, I get roughly, well, I get 45 to 50% of any connection request I ever send accepted.
mhm,
And out of that, I get 53% reply rate to my initial
wow,
message. So it's a ridiculous difference. Now, I'm not
mhm,
saying that all of those people end up on calls and are my clients, right? Otherwise, I'd be sat here with 500 clients and it being impossible to serve all of them. But
mhm,
even for the ones that don't come through and don't want to buy from me now, I can still reach out to them again in the future. Like one campaign I'm running at the moment is going back and asking people to get them to fill in a questionnaire about their experiences on LinkedIn. And I can
mm,
go and do that with people that I've not messaged for like 6 months or a year or weren't
yeah,
interested. And they don't tell me where to go because they remember that I was respectful and that we had a
mhm,
proper conversation. And as soon as they said they didn't need help or it whatever died off, I backed off from that, and I'm not saying I don't follow up because I do. Of course I follow up with people, but I don't treat it as like let's just spam as many people as we possibly can because I honestly don't think it works.
yeah, and I wanna say that, um, I used to believe that follow-up was annoying. I used to think that once you connected with someone, if they were gonna become a client or a referral partner, I used to leave it up to them to reach out to me, and I don't know why. Maybe that came from fear or not being sure what to say, but I did learn from a sales coach that follow-up didn't have to be, "Hey, just checking in. Where do we stand? Wanna buy my stuff?" See, in my mind, I thought follow-up was that pitch slap, was that, you know, "Hey, we talked 3 months ago, do you wanna join my program?" And what I learned was that let's not call it follow-up, let's call it stay in touch. Let's call it providing value to other people, or, commenting on somebody's post can be a form of staying in touch with someone. So I really love this idea that expanding your network can lead to sales, can lead to inbound inquiries when it's done the right way.
Totally. Yeah. And the follow up where you're saying just checking in or just circling
Yeah.
back or whatever else. I mean, even if you've had a sales conversation with somebody, that makes you want to throw up in your mouth, like
Mhm.
you know full well why the person's circling back and why they want to ask you something else. And as much as whatever, even if you need the solution and you've got the problem, you're not going to buy anything from anyone when you've put your
Right.
guards up straight away.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. Following up with somebody and offering them some value, or saying you saw something that they posted and it resonated with you, or whatever it might be. And as long as you're
Mhm.
not doing it as a tactic, it's like, they pop up, you see them, of course, track these things. I'm not
Yeah.
saying you have to remember like 4,000 people and what their birthday is and the name of their dog or whatever. But have a system for it and go and do it genuinely based on
Mhm.
what the intention is for building your business.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And so I have a little question. Um, for me, I tend to and think about certain people, remember certain people, and if I haven't connected with a person in a long time, but I see a post or they pop into my mind, I use that as an opportunity for that authentic connection or invitation, or, "Hey, I saw your post about XYZ. It was so great to see you in my feed. Um, Made me think of you. How have you been? How's the family?" If I know, right? It has to be real. And I think that's the key, at least for me. If we're connecting on a genuine point, whether it's snowboarding, surfing, business, AI, if it's something genuine, it's easier for me to do it. If I start getting into, oh, tactic, how do I get that person as a client? It it doesn't work. It never has. And I I want to know how you change people's thinking on that type of spammy outreach or that type of tactic to go in feeling like that. um, what does that look like to change somebody's thinking on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I mean, for most people, the reason they feel like it's icky and it's a tactic is because it's
Mhm.
new, because they've
Mm,
not done it enough. And everything is about reps and trying to
yeah,
do stuff and figuring it out as you kind of go along. So for me, it's getting people into going and sending messages and following up with people and finding out what feels good and what doesn't feel
mhm,
good, for them, because everybody's different. Like
yeah,
some people will go in and they'll do like the same tactic or whatever and it feels fine, and others it won't be. But I think really changing someone's opinion, if they feel like they want to use tactics and spam and stuff, there's not really much you can do. And I,
mhm,
I usually try and repel them from wanting to come and talk to me and work with me by my content and the things that I post. I think unfortunately we live in a society now where everything's an instant gratification, whether it's like
yeah,
scrolling through stuff on your phone or like whatever, like all of these things. And marketers are guilty of this as well, because
mhm,
people will say, oh, do this, buy this $1,000 course, apply it, you're going to get all of these crazy results. And they deliberately shy away from the hard work and the effort and the intention that's behind all of that. And I think what happens then is we end up with a lot of people that very rarely get results, like people on sales calls and stuff like
yeah,
that. And then when they do get people on sales calls, they're so desperate to close that they'll sit and read every tactic and try and follow every tactic that they've ever learned to kind of do it, to get
yeah,
that sale through the door. And that never works because humans can smell desperation. So
mhm.
it's and I get why that's tricky and desperate for people, because you want your business to succeed and you're like, I need to close this, I need to get this sale. But then that ends up putting people off.
Well, it's such a cycle that I see over and over and over again, that, you know, when the bank account is low, you stop doing the things that worked prior, and you get into that desperate mode. I have to close somebody, or, oh, I really need a client. And I would argue that that cycle for entrepreneurs, doesn't matter if you're a coach, a consultant, service provider, um, doesn't really matter. If you're in the online space, you go through that cycle. And I'm curious about, you know, other people's process for staying out of that cycle of feast or famine. Uh, for me, it's about just being consistent with the conversations, the events, the emails, and the consistency actually keeps the sales consistent. I'm wondering what that looks like for you.
Totally. The problem is that people measure the outputs instead
Mm.
of the inputs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like anybody that masters anything, right? If you look at the sports person or the pianist or the musician or whatever, if you go and actually watch one of those people, they do the basics over and over and over again,
Yeah.
right? So for us as business owners, the basics are sending those 25 connection requests every day, posting the content every day, following up with the people who liked your stuff, looking at who looked at your profile on LinkedIn, like all of these things that are not sexy in any way, shape, or form are
Mm-hmm.
the things that lead to the results later.
Yeah.
And like everything in life, I'm sure you know, like compound interest, right? It's that
Mm-hmm.
graph where you see if you have $10 today, in 20 years it might be $20, and in 40 years it might be 50, and then by the end it's like 10 grand or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
because the graph goes like this for so long, and then eventually you get to this end and it shoots up. And there's
Yeah.
like a natural law about that. It's 80-20, right? Everything in the world is 80-20, you know? So this last 20% is where things start to get really, really good. And unfortunately, most people give up before they
Mm-hmm.
get to that very last stage. And it's because they're measuring the outputs and not the inputs, because they're putting all
Yeah.
this effort in and they're seeing some stuff going on, but it's not what they think it should be. This is compounded by the fact that we all have really, really short memories.
Mm.
So, like, if I asked you what you had for lunch last week on Wednesday, you know, you probably don't know, right? And
Mm-mm.
if you go and say, oh, who was, you know, your kid's third grade teacher, again, you
No.
probably don't remember. And it's the same in business. You take an action like sending 25 daily connection requests and you do it for 2 months or whatever, and then suddenly you get a client, you forget that that was the reason why, and by then you might
Sure.
start tweaking stuff and moving things around and not doing the basics, and then suddenly
Mhm.
you don't have any calls coming through or any clients coming through.
Yeah.
So for me, I always focus on, am I doing those basic inputs? And as long as I'm doing them every day, I don't really care about the result there and then on that particular day, because I know it will come inevitably at some point, you know,
Yeah.
and it always
Yeah,
does.
it's really the habit of, whatever that looks like for you, being in the habit of doing it every day, whether you got 3 sales yesterday or not. And I think that's the hardest part to wrap your head around, that if you had a good week, you still next week do the same things. And I notice, and I've worked with a lot of realtors, a lot of coaches, and I notice that when times are good, they slack off on the connections, the leads, the networking events. And then 3 months after the slack off, they have less money coming in, less clients. So I started to see this pattern that, when times were good, you forget the habits that got you there. And I think it's so important to stress, do habits that are doable, attach them to other habits, right? If you open social media every day, do your habits first. Make those connection requests, manage your list, because the human brain can only remember 100 people. And well, my job in the online space is to have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people know who I am. And if I do a good job and do the things that you teach and talk about, I will have more and more people know me, so I don't have to remember them.
Totally.
I want to be
Totally.
one of everybody's 100, right? So all of my connections, and if I make that kind of valuable impression on them, they remember Suzanne. And I'm not saying that I don't remember people, but my brain only has the capacity to remember 100 without technology helping me. And now we have technology to help us. So tell us a little bit about your guides that help do this.
Sure. Yeah. And what you said there is a really, really good point. I just want to add to that quickly. It's like AI
Mhm.
is here to help us do more, not less,
Yes.
or more, not the same. It's about how can you compound more of the things you do. So
Yeah.
in my system, it's called the LinkedIn Basecamp, which you get full access to inside the school community. The way I developed that actually was it was my high ticket program.
Mm.
So I used to charge $6,000 to help people install this over
Okay.
a period of time. And I decided that because of the way AI is and the way things are moving, you need to
Mm.
get people results faster than ever before. Like
Yes.
people don't want to wait 12 weeks to start booking
No.
calls and getting clients. It's not.
No.
And there's so many people out there that say they can do stuff and they can't, that everybody's been burnt at some point spending thousands of dollars on things that
Yeah.
haven't really worked.
Yeah.
So you have to be in a place where you can build that trust up front. And that's what made me decide to do the LinkedIn Basecamp and the community, because I'd done this with 50 plus coaches already. I knew it worked really, really well. And I
Mhm.
found a way to make it so that I could customize it by showing people over video how to customize it, basically.
Mhm.
So then the LinkedIn Basecamp was born. And inside there, we have content Sherpas, as I call them, as guides. We've got one that helps you write content for LinkedIn. It's called
Mhm.
the Content Writing Sherpa. There's a punchy Content Sherpa, which is not like punching you in the face or anything, but it's shorter, more impactful content.
Mhm.
There's another one in there that helps you with commenting on people's profiles, and it's not the kind of comments where you see, "Oh, that's powerful" or "That's wonderful." They're
Yeah.
genuinely insightful content using like high status communication principles and other things that just make it so that
Mm.
people think it's a human rather than an AI, and they are actually good comments.
Yeah.
And then there's the main bot is the conversation bot. So I call it the authentic conversation Sherpa. And that helps you guide a whole conversation through the DMs using the framework that I've built to take someone from initial contact right the way through to booking them on a call with you. And then there's a follow-up bot as well. And I've recently just added a topic Sherpa, which helps you. Yeah, the topic Sherpa is really cool because it helps you take a really niche subject
Mhm.
and make it so that it not only resonates with your target audience, but with like the broader business world. Because, and I did a post about this earlier that I've not put out there yet, but in the past, people used to say, write for your niche.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, writing for your niche in 2018 or 2021 even made sense because there wasn't that much content out there, right? For
Right.
one, yeah, not many people knew how to write it very well, or not many people could afford to pay someone to write it for them. So the competition on LinkedIn for posts was much, much less. So back then it made sense if you served like exec coaches, you just write content for exec coaches. But
Right.
now, if you do that, the algorithm's not ever going to pick you up, basically. So you're going to stay at a low level. The clever thing to do now is to write things that are broad and get like millions of people seeing your stuff,
Mhm.
but then you can niche down with the offers that you create. So the
Yeah.
topic Sherpa helps you do that. You go in with your niche
Love it.
idea. Yeah. And then it will basically spit out and say, hey, these are 10 ideas that, are a bit broad and the same psychological principles of why that post works for your specific niche. So
Wow.
it's awesome. And I'm adding more to it all the time. Like I also do a monthly workshop in there as well, and they get added
Mhm.
for members and stuff. So that Basecamp course is an end-to-end LinkedIn system, and it's of the three things that I do. It's like a pyramid basically.
Mhm.
So if you just need client acquisition system for LinkedIn, that's at the top, and then in the middle there's a layer that's all around positioning. So when I help people with positioning on my longer programs, it's what's your niche, because a lot of people struggle badly with
Yes.
choosing their niche. What's the problem that you solve? Right, the specific problem, how well have you researched that problem, etc., etc. What's the solution? Because generally people start with solution and work back to problem instead of the other way around. And then results and obviously the offer. And then the level at the bottom behind that is an AI process, which I've not released yet, but it's coming soon, called the Pathfinder process.
Ooh.
And yeah, so the Pathfinder process takes you through, like, what are you supposed to be doing? What's your purpose? What's your identity? Why are you doing the business that you chose to do? And an example story of that, I had a client who came to work with me, and he was a Jay Shetty coach for tech professionals. When we first started, I piloted him through this process that I've built, and now he helps Muslim professionals be more confident at work and spread understanding and knowledge of the Islam faith. So he went from this thing thinking, oh, I should do this, right the way over to something totally different. So it's a big old thing.
So there's so much value, but I want to go back to what you said, that the Basecamp used to be your higher ticket program, something we have in common. I did my school community with the idea that I was going to take my high ticket course, that I had taken, I don't know how many cohorts of people through. And instead of having it be $1,000 a month group coaching program, I was going to include it with my membership. And that really kind of fueled the growth of not only the community, my networking events, just massive amounts of value that you do. You understand that in order to have more impact, you have to be more accessible. And that really drove me in a way that is so satisfying to see. Now, when you do this, you don't have everybody that joins do everything you say, but you typically notice some rock stars in your community who are doing it and are sharing it and promoting you in the process, becoming super fans because you've actually taught them something so valuable. Now, how does that feel from, the perspective of the bigger impact? What does that look like for you? What's the big hairy goal with impact for you?
Sure, it's a good question. And again, it's something that was quite difficult for me to deal with initially, because people do come in and not everyone does what you put out there. And sometimes you can be like, wait, so how can I improve this and optimize this? And it works because you've taken people through that are paying high value, and now it's cheaper. Some people don't do it. So there is that. For me, it's that I believe the world is going to change massively. Like where we're at right now with AI and everything else coming through, I think traditional work and workplaces are going to be a thing of the past. I think that even smaller businesses that rely on A players are going to struggle, because these A players are going to realize they can do all their own marketing, all their own stuff, and charge a hell of a lot more for it. So I feel like we're going to move towards a project-based economy. And for that, it means that we need to have people that are skilled in all the things like that we do, right? So marketing, outreach, and all of that stuff. So I want to give as many people as possible the opportunity to do that easily without having to go and pay like 6K, 10K to even get started. So that's my mission for the LinkedIn Basecamp. And the reason that I call it Authentic Navigators, and my weekly meetings are called the Map Room, and I'm Captain Jack, right, of the Authentic Navigators ship, is for me, I see it as you're almost cutting through a forest of business, right?
Yeah.
And there's all these courses and growls in the woods of do this and you should do that. And I've kind of cut that path over 5 years of trial and error and failure. And I want to help people through that first bit of the jungle as quickly and as easily as possible. But then I want to equip them to go and sharpen their own machete and go off in whatever direction they want to go off in.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, the 9 to 5 working structure, it suppresses a lot of people that have got amazing gifts and values to bring to the world, and it doesn't have to, you know. So that's my big goal, is to get, you know, 10,000 people into the position where they can go and do their own thing.
Well, I love that so much because it's part of my why, and maybe that's why I'm attracted to what you do and the value you provide. Part of my why, because I've been in the online space for so long and an entrepreneur for 40 years, I feel as though it's my responsibility to cut through the BS of the online space for people. So I absolutely love your program. I'm doing your program. I'm a member of your community. I invite people to join your community, not because of any other reason except the amount of massive value, the intelligence of it. And there's so many things in the online space, shiny objects, courses, coaching programs that don't actually teach anything. And I'm bold enough to say that now. I didn't used to be, because I've realized it's part of my why. So it's to challenge the status quo and call other people up to their greatness, to their full potential. Yes, all day long. And I feel like you're a kindred spirit in that department. And I knew it right away when Justin introduced me to you. I just knew that there was something magical about what you're doing. And so, however, I can support that, encourage that, and just call you up to keep doing what you're doing, because it truly is magical.
No, I appreciate that so much. And again, I feel exactly the same when we first met. And we hit it off. I think we had a good hour call and
Yeah.
another one a week or so after that. And it
Yeah.
was, you know, I can tell you've got the same vision about what's important in the world right now. And I'm sure you, in 40 years in business, have spent quite a bit more than me, but I've spent $30,000 on courses and whatever else. And, you know, some of them have been good, some of them have not been. And I think a lot of it preys on people's need to feel like they're doing something.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not going to say the number that I've spent, because I wouldn't want my husband to find out how much this business of mine has spent on coaching, consulting. No, he knows. But I feel as though the amount that I've spent on nonsense is truly, I could probably buy a vacation home with it. And I think if I can be that filter for people, I love being that filter for people. And all of my clients, friends, connections know that if you're thinking about buying anything and it's over $100, ask me. Ask me. Because I might have already have it. I might have studied it. I might know a book about that topic because I read a ridiculous amount. And I think when we truly look at the lens, entrepreneurs are feeling like they need everything as soon as they come in the online space. I need a website. I need funnels. I need emails. I need a community. I need a podcast. I need sales pages. And they get so caught up in the weeds of all the things they need to be doing on the computer. I need to build this. I need to have this. And they miss the human connection piece.
Totally. Like I couldn't add anything to that at all, because it's exactly on point. It's
Yeah.
again, most of it is understanding your audience, your customer. It's like
Right.
really digging into
Right.
what do they think, what do they feel, like what are they scared of, all of these things. And again, it's the double-edged sword of AI that a lot of people think now that going and creating an avatar is to just go into ChatGPT and say, hey, this is my target customer, create me an avatar.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, right? So until you've done, I even and I'm doing it again at the moment. I created a new Google Chrome profile,
Okay.
and I've created an alter ego, which is an executive coach, which is like one of my main target clientele, professional coaches. And I'm going and I'm signing up to like Facebook, and like I'm going and joining groups on Reddit, and I'm reading podcasts, and not reading podcasts, that would be weird, but going and doing podcasts and like all of this stuff, so I can absorb the information as a member of my niche. I'm going undercover. Like I feel like I'm an undercover cop in there.
I
Yeah.
like
And
it.
after 14 days, you start getting marketed to the same way as your
Yes.
ICP.
Yes.
Like you start doing all of this stuff, and you end up with a document of pages and pages and pages. And the way to look at it is, if you were going to write an email to your husband to sell him something, you would know exactly what to put in that email.
Yes.
Right? Because you know everything about him. That's how people need to be with their target market. So really, why even bother with a website until you've got at least some understanding of that?
Absolutely. I say work with 100 clients, help 100 people, and figure out who you like to work with. Do I like 20-year-olds, or do I prefer 60-year-olds? Do I like working with a certain demographic, psychographic? Like, learn you first. I love that. I have an alter ego, and she writes my AI newsletter for me, and she does all the research. New tools, new platforms, new releases. She researches all of that for me and tells me about it in a weekly report. And then I choose what I'm going to have her report on based on my ideal client. So there's some human interaction there that's imperative. And I think that's why she lands with so many people. She's a 50s housewife, and she has martinis before she reports on AI. So she's super funny. And I think why it's landing is the human interaction. If I allowed her to just write on what she finds and reports back to me, it could be 100 things a week because of how fast AI is moving, it wouldn't resonate with my ideal client as much. But because I pick the stories, oh, let's write about this and this and this, because of how it applies to entrepreneurs and coaches and service providers, all of a sudden it's landing with my ideal client so much better.
Right.
It's absolutely incredible to think about AI that way. And I love that you're doing the same.
Yeah, it's the avatar in mind, and knowing that it just allows you to do much more stuff. It's it's an interesting one. I've had things in the past with projects where you see people join projects where they maybe end up getting paid a lot more than they used to get paid. And what they will do is that they'll just work, say they got paid 3 times as much, they'll just work a third as much. And that's the thing we should not do with AI, right? Just because now AI has come along and it's like, oh, you can do all of this. You don't go, okay, I'm gonna work 10%. It's because everyone can tell. And I think it's one of the things I'm really passionate about, is like being against what I call AI slop, because people don't realize how damaging it is for their brand to be posting stuff without doing what you do and going through and checking and knowing what's going to work and what isn't. So yeah, it's a really, really great point.
Well, I think, LinkedIn content in particular, I'm using a tool right now that analyzes my content and then tells me what is working, what's landing, what's not landing. Besides LinkedIn numbers, it's more emotional. It's telling me, oh, that hook worked. Your people like numbers, they like your stories, and it's really helping me see what's working. But the cool part, it also is showing me other people's content who talk about things like I do, who are getting 10 times the interaction, 100 times the interaction. That's fascinating to me. There was a post it sent me and said, this post is like you, it talks about similar things, but it got 900 times the reach as yours. 900 times.
Wow.
Let me see why. And it wasn't because the person had more followers than me or more connections than me. It was the hook, and it was also a couple of the hashtags that were used. Like, it was a whole combination of things. And the post was from 9 years ago. And I thought to myself, this post is still getting attention. Why?
Wow.
Why? Because of where it's been shared. In a blog, in an article on Forbes. The link to that post is so many different places that it's still getting attention. And all of a sudden, that just, gave me so many ideas about having that flywheel effect happen when you post.
Yeah, that's so cool. And
Yeah.
that's like, the old world of SEO in action right there.
Yeah.
It's amazing what can happen if you get enough guest posts on the same thing. So yeah,
Right?
really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what about AI search? What's happening?
That's crazy. So it's something I'm working with at the moment with a good friend of mine, Martin, because he's like
Uh-huh.
properly into all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's making sure you're talking about the same topics on the same platforms, and the most and on the most important platforms. So Reddit is a huge one for it. LinkedIn is another. YouTube, like all of these things. But it's making sure that strategy then aligns back to your blog, on your website, which we said, this is not like, for anyone listening, this is not like I've just started my business and I have 50 clients. I need to do AI search, by the way.
Right.
Leave this until you've got like a good client base. But yeah, it's crazy. It's going to change everything for sure.
Yeah, I read that post where you tagged your friend about it. It was really
Yeah.
good. I'll make sure I put that in the comments of today's video as well. Well, I could talk to you forever, but how can our listeners get in touch with you? I already put the link to your school group on Facebook. I'll add it on LinkedIn. I love being a member. Thank you for coaching me through this and being such a good Sherpa and captain.
I appreciate it, Suzanne. Thank you. Yeah, and the best way to get in touch with me is through LinkedIn. So I'm on there, Jack M. Austin, as you can see below. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you for having me. And hopefully we can do it again at some point in the future, because the way things move, right? We can, there's plenty more we can dig into, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, you'll have more Sherpas, and I'll have my CEO dashboard ready to go, and all kinds of fun things we can talk about.
I love it. That sounds great.
All right. Well, have a great day, everyone. Thanks again, Jack, for joining me, and we'll talk soon.